And today we're going to be going over building your lawn and landscape marketing and sales plan. I mean, typically we are in the business of putting microbes into soil to help you save a few bucks with the expensive fertilizer costs right now. But this webinar is strictly about how you're going to put money in your pocket with a smarter, more effective marketing and sales plan. Why that just jumped ahead to that slide, I have no idea. All right, so I'm Rob McCoy. I'm your host today. I'm the sales manager for Holganix. I don't know if you consider it national anymore because we are shipping stuff out of the country. But on a daily basis, I'm working with lawn and landscape professionals, getting into the nitty-gritty of their business, not just their agronomic plans, but any way that we can help them be successful. And a lot of times that branches into sales and marketing, because in my former life, I ran a couple lawn care companies, and they were pretty successful on the sales and marketing side of things. So I tend to gravitate towards that conversation. And I love to share some of the best ideas that we've had and that I've learned in talking with some of our customers. And so we're going to go through that today. Specifically, we're going to go over designing your plan, creating marketing campaigns, building a champion sales team, some resources, and then obviously we'll have questions and answers at the end. If you have a question while we're going through, make sure you click on the little question box there and just type it in so that we have them when we get to the end of this, and we can just rip right through them and make sure that we're done in a decent amount of time here. Good fortune is what happens when opportunity meets planning. Thomas Edison. So part one, designing your sales and marketing plan. So some things to look at before you jump into what your calendar is going to be and how you're going to market, what great ideas you have about like catchy ideas and things like that. You really want to identify your target. So by target, I mean KPIs, key performance indicators. You obviously want to know what your revenue goal is by a certain time, whether that's by the amount of customers that you want to add, the amount of dollars you want to add, whatever that may be, but you have to know what your target is. It seems very elementary, but there's so many times where people come up with great ideas that they want to execute on, and they don't know whether they're successful at the end of the day or not because they don't know what goal they were trying to hit in the first place besides more. And more is not always a number because you need to make sure that you are creating a budget that is effective and you get an ROI on. So you want to make sure that you have your revenue goal, and that's supposed to be a bottom-up approach, not bottom-up approach. With the bottom-up approach, you're considering, all right, how are we going to approach this? Are we looking for customers? Are we looking for revenue? What's the primary outcome? I can share a quick story that there was a point in time where we've done this in both ways, and we failed in both ways, and we were successful in both ways. For example, we knew we wanted to grow by $1 million in 1 year when we were doing $1 million in revenue. It took us one customer to do that. It was a very strategic alliance. The problem was that because we weren't specific about our goal ahead of time, we actually made less money at $2 million in gross revenue than we did with $1 million in gross revenue. So you don't want something like that to happen. You want to be as specific as possible with what your goal is. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with SMART goals, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and tangible. Make sure that you're strict on that. The more specific and clear you can be with your goal, the more likely it is that you're actually going to hit the right thing. What can you expect from a return on your invested marketing and sales dollars? You should make sure that you at least have a target on that, because you don't want to just take what is given to you. Sometimes you have to ask a question like, is that really as effective as we want it to be? does that give us enough return on investment to operate the business with more customers? Because sometimes, growth goes in plateaus, or steps, I should say. So when you are on the up step, it's very expensive. It's not very profitable until you get to the top of the step, when it plateaus off. And then you can become profitable at that point. But for example, on a lawn care company, if you were, let's just say every technician can do 400 customers, which is kind of an average number that I see around the country. If they can do 400 customers, when you have 200 extra customers, let's say you were at 800 customers and now you're at 1,000, you're not that profitable on the last 200 customers. You're not going to reach maximum profitability until you get to 1,200 customers. So you want to make sure, and that kind of goes to also to the bottom up approach on where does it make sense for us to get to, and how much are we willing to spend in order to get there? Because your sales and marketing dollars are one thing. You may have to change infrastructure. You may have to hire. You may have to get another truck, another setup. You have to figure in all those expenses. Obviously, you make money over time by retaining customers, but it's another factor that you want to work into it. How much are you willing to spend? A lot of times that depends on what the return on investment is. So you want to look at both sides of that. Some other numbers to pay attention to: the cost per sale, cost per lead, gross margin per employee, and the customer's lifetime value. Now, you can get your customer lifetime value based off of your averages that you already have in place. So you want to make sure that you take a look at that so that you understand how much should we be investing in order to get another one of those customers. So say that your average customer, for the sake of round numbers and making this easy on my brain, your customer spends $1,000 a year in lawn care. And on average, you keep them for 4 years. That's a $4,000 customer that you're trying to get. What are you willing to spend to get the $4,000 customer? So let's say that your margin, your gross margin is 50%. So you're going to make now $2,000 worth of profit on that customer. What are you willing to spend in order to get that $2,000? And now the other factor in there is you also have to take into account that you're probably more profitable year after year than starting in the beginning. So it only works out if you retain those customers. That goes into setting proper expectations and making sure you're selling them on reality and not some pie in the sky idea that you can't deliver on. So let's go into the next piece here. Your content calendar. So you can plan this out quarterly, monthly, and weekly for your content. And you want to consider everything, every possible channel of communication. And you should do this for any season that you're going to do it in. So let's just take spring, for example, since that's the next one that's really coming up and where you're going to have a great sales push. You want to make sure that you have an entire calendar laid out of all the different hit points. I will tell you that you want to go out pretty far, because one of the areas where we would fail, and it was kind of, sometimes you fail and you learn and it's fine and you just move on. It's part of the business. But there's other times where it's painful in the sense that you're like, man, we really could have done well, and now we got to wait another year for that. Things like how do you market around like Valentine's Day? How do you market around Father's Day? Things like that will give you a different angle on your content. So you want to make sure that you're going out far enough. Sending out, one that we miss all the time because we're busy wrapping things up for the year is Thanksgiving. Almost everybody in the country celebrates Thanksgiving. And it's a great opportunity to thank your customers. You're grateful for them. And, it's a genuine way to stay in front of them and make sure that they're taken care of. And, recognize the holiday at the same time. So you want your content calendars to go out pretty far to make sure that you are taking advantage of every opportunity that you can, because you don't want to keep sending out the same content over and over and just keep asking for a sale with some ridiculous offer that you offer every single time. Get 2 free applications if you sign up now for lawn care. Like, throw that stuff out the door. Like, it's not going to work. The customer that you're going to get from that is the same customer that's going to leave you for somebody else's deal the very next year. You have to be more creative than that, and more genuine than that. So here's an example of a content calendar, and you can do a content calendar any way that you want. Like, the only wrong way to do it is not have enough detail in it, but you can set it up any way that you want. Here's an example of just a 1 week scope of what we would be looking at that would be going out as far as our content. But even in the case of like Post-it notes, they work. It's just a matter of, and this is over an entire year. So this is a much larger scale, like big ideas. I'm sure they have campaigns built into each one of these. You may want to look at it in all these different ways. The most common and effective way that I see a content calendar built is through Excel, just because you can design that any way that you want. It's as simple as starting with the quarters, and then breaking it down into months, breaking it down into weeks, and then getting specific on exact dates as what's going out when, so that you can coordinate not only a nice flow to your marketing, but also the personnel that you're going to need to support that. So if you, for example, if you're trying to drive inbound sales, are you going to have the personnel there to answer the phone and make the sales? Can you be specific on that timing of when you're going to drive the phone to ring? The other thing is, when you get new customers, are you going to be able to service them in a timely manner? Because you don't want one of two things to happen. You don't want buyer's remorse. So you want them to be excited about the purchase that they made and carry that excitement through the time period of you doing the first service. And the other thing is, you don't want it to get stale, because if it gets stale, and by stale, what I mean is, you sell somebody on the 1st of the month and you get out there on the 15th of the month. It may be perfect timing on the application, but it's not perfect timing emotionally based on their purchase. So you have to get out there inside of the week that they were sold in. So you want to be strategic about that, and make sure that you have all these different things coordinated in your content calendar. Like I said, you can't have too much information in there, because there's a lot of plates to spin at the same time. Now, we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit right here. So when you're thinking of your approach to what customers you're going to go after, this goes for lawn care, landscape designs, landscape maintenance. I don't care what it is. If you have to drive to a property, the Golden Street approach is something that you should consider. So Golden Street approach for us, and we did this, we started doing this in like 2005. And it was not just successful from the standpoint of us getting customers, we got really profitable customers. And everybody throughout the entire company was happier with this approach. The technicians, because their routes were easier, the customers, because our service was better, the salespeople, because they were easier sales to make, the owner, because it's more profitable. So it was all pluses when we did this Golden Street approach. But basically what we looked at was, can we get the customers that are the neighbors of our current customers? And in 2005, this was a little bit more far-fetched than it is today, because the technology is a huge advantage today. but it's only an advantage if you're using it. So I would say make sure that you're targeting the neighbors of your current customers, because the profitability is not comparable to getting a new customer on a new street where you don't already have pre-existing customers. And you want to build off of those customers. I would rather have 10 customers on one street than 20 customers on 20 streets. No doubt about it, I'll make more money off of those 10 customers than I would off the 20. And that's, strictly just looking at the profit, not what I'm spending or anything like that, just the profit, because the profitability goes up so much working at neighbors' houses. Even if you're doing a design build, it's still significantly more profitable, because what equipment can you move over? How many things can you do at the same time? You can move personnel between properties pretty easily if you're waiting for material or something like that. On the lawn care side, it's an absolute no-brainer. One stop, two lawns. Back when I started in lawn care, I was a technician, and we did this approach kind of accidentally in one of the neighborhoods that I worked in, and it was this one subdivision. We had 72 lawns that I would do in one day, and I moved the truck 5 times. And if you think about that, the profitability is astronomical. I mean, that's me doing more than 10 properties per stop. And because, being a technician, I didn't want to go back to that neighborhood later on for, let's say, the last 10 if I didn't get them done. So it drove me as a technician to work hard to get them all done in one day so that I could keep my productivity on the other days. But the profitability was through the roof on that. So spend your time on the golden streets, looking at carrier routes for postal codes. A lot of people select who they're going to market to based off of zip codes. Zip codes are okay. But if I told you that, I'll try and use a good analogy. If we're going to celebrate the holidays in December, that's okay. Like that's some direction. We're going to celebrate the holidays. It's in December. But if I told you what day we were going to celebrate the holidays, the likelihood of everybody being able to get together is much higher. Well, if you market to a zip code, the likelihood that you get a highly profitable customer is not that great. If you market to a carrier route in a zip code, now you are going to have much better saturation within that area and drive the profitability up and drive time down. So next piece of the puzzle, the competition. So you got to make sure that you are continuously checking on your competition. Set reminders for yourself. Make sure that you have people getting estimates, engaging in phone calls with the competition. It's just so that you know what you're up against. You're not trying to steal information or anything like that. Understand what they're saying and what their offer is, just so you know what you're up against and what your offer should be. Set Google alerts for your competition. So if that word or the name of their company comes up, you get notified. You can also do that on social media. So when they get mentioned, you get notified and you can kind of see what's being said and possibly even chime in on it. It depends on the exact forum. But you want to know as much as you possibly can. And this is not something that you do once and then get away from. This is not something that you do once a year and then get away from. You have to do this multiple times a year, getting estimates, getting the direct mail pieces or the emails from them. If you're not on their newsletter email, then you're really not doing your job. Like that's as cookie cutter and easy as it gets. So make sure that you are, before you even go in to set Google alerts or set up notifications, do the stuff that the way that they would market to every customer or every prospect, just get on that list, so that you're getting that information and you can see what they're doing. Once you are able to acquire some of this information, you want to do a SWOT analysis. So this is for yourself, but also in comparison to your competition. Your competition is part of this equation. So you want to go through your strengths, your weaknesses, what opportunities are out there, and what threats there are. You're not going to have all this information unless you have the information about your customers. But there's also other threats out there like fertilizer costs, gas prices. What if you are doing a standard synthetic program, and because they build a Whole Foods market in your zip code where you primarily work, it changes the demographic within the area. You need to be able to look at everything, and again, a SWOT analysis is something that you may want to do quarterly, just to because your strengths and weaknesses are going to change. It's going to change based off of your equipment, based off of the weather, the economy, your personnel. So you always want to know where you stand and what you should be taking advantage of and going after. And this will play a major role in how you do your marketing and sales. So that was all part one. So part two is creating marketing and sales campaigns. A lot of times people overlook a referral program, and I can tell you that if you have a good referral program, you don't really need to do a lot of other stuff. You can hit the numbers that you want based off of a dynamic, intriguing referral program. It's not a surprise that referrals increase profitability. And you heard me talk about acquiring neighbors of current customers. But the other factor here is that it also increases the longevity of your current customers. If customers are vouching for your service, they're less likely to cancel your service. So if you're trying to strengthen up your customer base, one of the best ways to do it is have a really good referral program. Because if they can't say no to a referral program, now they can't say no to your service. So a pretty standard referral program is like a $25 discount or gift card to someone that's referred and the referee, your current customer. I'll tell you that that's probably not good enough. That's one of the reasons why you want to go through the numbers ahead of this, is to understand, what are you willing to spend to get a new customer? What are you willing to spend to get the neighbor of an existing customer? But now I'll ask you the real question here. What are you willing to spend to get the neighbor of a new customer that is going to ensure that you have not only that customer, but your current customer for the next 3 years? That's a totally different number. It's like an insurance policy along with growth. And, so when we did standard marketing in the past, and this, again, we're going back 15 plus years ago, $100 for a cost of sale was fine by us. We would spend $100 to get the customer. Our average customer was with us for probably 5 or 6 years. So we knew that we could make money with that business model. When we went to the Golden Street approach, we doubled that. We were willing to spend $200 to get that customer because we could make more money in half the amount of time off of that same customer and provide a better service, which is in turn why we were making more money off of that customer. So it's something that to really analyze is like, who is your ideal customer? Along with getting the numbers that you want that are your goal and what you're shooting for, you really want to know who your ideal customer is. When we went into the Golden Street approach, it wasn't just that we were targeting the neighbors. We also did a rating system of A, B, C, and X. An A customer, for example, was a customer that lived in a subdivision where the home value was over $500,000. It was a dual income family that lived on between a quarter acre and 3/4 of an acre. It was flat. There was no fences. And the house was older than 2 years old. And they had curtains in the windows. I mean, we went down to some specifics. The reason why, for example, that they had to have curtains in the windows, there was no point in us trying to get them as a new customer if they haven't even put curtains in the windows yet. We weren't going to be a priority. The other thing that people find interesting, why would we not want a brand new house? Why would we want to wait until it's at least 2 years old? Because everybody's seen what a yard looks like, and when a house is freshly built, even if it's sodded, they're going to have struggles with that lawn. I'm going to let another lawn care company go in there and get fired before I get hired, because that's going to do two things for me. One, they're going to probably not be profitable in that first year because they're going to get canceled. So why would I want that? Two, it's also going to set expectations correctly for the new homeowner, because they've never gone through the process of establishing a new lawn before. So it gives us a little bit of a buffer. Then we can come in, do a better job than the original company, and that's not because we were just automatically going to do a better job. That's because we're dealing with a better set of circumstances. So again, I'm going to go back to identifying your ideal customer is extremely important, and don't leave any stone unturned, because you really want to analyze everything. Some of those little key factors can make a huge difference. One of the reasons that we figured that out was we teamed up with a builder in the area, and in their new homeowner packet, they had our information with a discount for their brand new lawn. And we were taking care of all these new lawns in new subdivisions. And we were losing those customers every year. And we could not figure out why, because we were just doing our very best to keep those customers. But the problem was that there was no way that we were going to be successful. Their expectations were out of this world, and they had every right to have that. They just spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on a brand new house where they have dirt and rocks and some grass. So I could understand their frustration, because they're buying into the American dream. And the American dream does not have bare spots and dandelions. And so we got away from that, because we learned by, like, it wasn't just like it was a little bit of a fire. It was the equivalent of a forest fire, because we had hundreds of those customers within a couple months. And a year later, we lost hundreds of customers because we couldn't satisfy their needs. So going back to the referral program, be creative with your referral program. Be unique. Think about companies that you can partner up with in your community. So can you partner up with restaurants? Will they give you a discount on gift cards if you're going to give them out as a referral? So that they can drive business, and who knows if somebody's going to use it. Can you, do any cross referral program? Say that you have you're in lawn care and you have a friend that does landscaping. You both get asked if you do the other all the time. How can you have a cross referral program? A lawn care company can take care of thousands of accounts. A grass cutting service can take care of hundreds of accounts. So there's an offset there that you have to account for, but you want to be creative with that. One of the if you, and I'm not going to go into detail on this, I'm going to point you in a direction. If you go and Google the best referral programs, it will give you examples of Uber, Google, Tesla, like referral programs that you didn't even know existed. I didn't know Google had a referral program, but it's for like Google Office services. But they're really unique in their different approaches, but they have some factors that you want to tie into your referral program, such as there has to be a reward on both sides. there has to be an immediate gratification. You want to also have a contest built into it so that they will keep doing it over and over and over again. You want to make it something that they're, if you take the purple cow philosophy, it's got to be something worth making a remark about so that they're talking about it within the community. So, uh, there's a company that I work with that bought sports tickets to the local sports teams. And each month they had a raffle. And in order to be in the raffle for the sports tickets, you had to refer a new customer. So the more referrals that you got as a customer, the more entries you got to, say, get Boston Bruins tickets. So that happened every month, and then they would utilize that to drum up more interest and more excitement. So they would post on their social media site, hey, here's our new winner. They're going to the Boston Bruins game because they referred us this new customer. We're thrilled to have them, blah, blah, blah. Get your referrals in for the next drawing, which is going to be for going to see Hamilton or something like that. And it doesn't have to, like, when you look at the expense of it, it's really a valuable investment. It seems fun, but you want to drive that interest and you want to keep it high and exciting so that everybody's talking about it and you can build up that momentum. And this can be your number one source of customers, which will be a highly profitable source of customers. Prepays. So I have battled customers on this point because I feel like everybody misses this and it's such an easy one to do. The first thing, timing is everything. Make sure that you send out your prepays before your last service is done for the year. Prepays for the next year before your last service is done. Because when your last service is done, whether you think it or not, and whether you have a continuing service that rolls over year after year, when the last service of the season is done, they're not your customer anymore. That's the way that they're thinking. They have fulfilled their end of it. You fulfilled your end of it. They may have every intention of coming back on with you next year, but the only way that you can really lock that in is if they prepay for the next year. You also want to make sure that you're tying in referrals on that. You want to tie in referrals anywhere. If you want a robust, awesome referral program, it's on every piece of literature that you have. It's on every social media post. It's in every phone call that you have, every voicemail greeting, you name it, you mention referrals. So obviously it's going to be on your prepay offer, and you combine prepays with additional services like aeration and overseeding or tree and shrub program, whatever program or additional service they don't have. Rather than giving money back as a prepay discount, you say, all right, if you decide to pay for your service now, we're going to offer you this additional service for free. Why would you do that? Because you're introducing them to another service that you already do. Chances are you'll be able to do two services at the same time or same visit. So it's not going to be very costly to do it that way. And the following season, when you don't have that offer anymore, they're going to be used to having that service and more than likely prepay for the original service and the service that they got in addition. So it's an easy way to build up the value of your existing customers in a way that is valuable to them. Would they have tried a new service that you provide if it wasn't free? Maybe not. Well, this way they will, and it's a pretty good savings for them. You're just pointing the money that they're spending in a direction that's mutually beneficial. Cancel saves. Nobody likes cancel saves. I can tell you that in one of our last years of business, I took over the responsibility of cancel saves, and we had about 13,000 customers at that point in time. So you could imagine, like, just when you hit that volume of customers, you're going to have requests for cancels on a daily basis. 6% of the people are going to move. So it gets to be a big number and a serious point of focus. You want to make sure that you have a scripted exit interview with cancel customers, that you practice this. One of the easiest sales role plays to do is a cancel save. And people don't think of cancel saves as sales, but here's why you should think of it as a sale. If you lose that customer, in order to get a new customer, you're going to have to spend money to go get it. And you're going to have to, marketing dollars, sales dollars, all those different things are going to have to go into it. So why wouldn't you invest that money into the cancel saves? It's better to keep a customer than to have to go get a new customer. So make sure that you have that process in place. You have a scripted interview so that at worst case scenario, you figure out how to run your business better and what you can do better based off of really well scripted questions that are going to give you the information you need to evaluate when you say that you get into your company's monthly meeting. The cancel reasons should be brought up, every single one of them. Here's why people are canceling. This is what this person said. This is what this person said. Here's the statistics on it. I mean, you may not have a company that's big enough at the time to look at the statistics, like, hey, 33 people cancel because they have weeds on their lawn. 2 people cancel because of price. 4 people cancel because of moving. We would look at it that way because of the volume that we had, and then we would bring up specific instances. When you don't have that many, you can bring up the specific instances and look at the statistics over a larger period of time, just to see if there's a real trend there and something that has to change. You also want to make sure that you're paying attention to the cancel requests based on the route that they're in. Is it the same technician? Is it the same area? Did taxes just go up in the borough and you started getting an influx of cancel requests because people, they all uniformly got hit with a tax increase? You want to know that information because you want to know, is it really a problem with us or is it a problem with them? And the more ownership you take in the cancel reasons, the better off you're going to be. If you have a cancel reason, say that you're using Real Green software, which is the most common software that I see out there. Say that you're using Real Green software and you have the cancel reason other in there, delete it today. That is not a reason that somebody canceled. If you didn't get the reason that they canceled, you just don't care to make your service any better. So make sure that you find out the reason, not because you're necessarily trying to save them, but sometimes they give you layups on this stuff, but because you need to make it better for the next customer so that you don't get that request for the same reason. So how do I get you to be a happy customer and refer me to a friend? I used to ask this question all the time. And I had a certain amount of money available to me or service value available to me to fix these problems. And when I asked this question, I wasn't just shooting, how can I keep you as a customer? That's one question. This is a different question. This is a different level of satisfaction. Sometimes people would say, I don't know that I could ever feel comfortable referring you to a friend of mine. Well, let's just say hypothetically that was going to happen. What would it look like? And when you start to have that conversation, it diffuses it a bit. And they're not so heated about what happened, but they tell you this is what would have to happen in order for me to get to that point. And most of the time, it's very doable. It's just a matter of getting them into the conversation. So think about other diffusing questions that you could have that aren't necessarily about the problem, but are about the destination that you're trying to get to. And then you should always be reselling to a cancel list. Every year, that was our warm-up. But what we came to realize is when we had good scripting for our cancel list, it wasn't really a warm-up. We got a significant amount of sales out of it. So we would pull cancel lists for the previous 3 years and call everybody that canceled. And after a while, it was like, do you want the new leads that came in or do you want the cancels? The experienced sales guys wanted the cancels because they would take our phone call every single time, and we could engage in a conversation and come to a solution. They probably had another service that had similar issues or wasn't any better, and you could get them back pretty easily. So part 3, building a winning sales team. So if you haven't read the book Top Grading, I'll start with that. You should get that book or and read it, or go on Audible and listen to it. But you should definitely check out the book because you always want to be building a bench of a team of sales professionals. And sales is a numbers game, so hire for numbers. So what do I mean by that? I mean that if you have someone that has a proven track record and has experience, you're more guaranteed to know what you get out of that. In the same breath, I will tell you, I would rather hire on culture than hire someone with experience. Because if I have someone that's going to be a good fit into the company and has the values that I want, as long as they have drive and discipline, I can make them into a selling machine. Because if you have discipline, then you understand how to play the numbers game for sales. If you have drive, then it's going to be easier for someone who's managing that salesperson to understand what their motivation is. If you understand, and I used to always call it sales currency. If you understand what your salesperson's sales currency is, in other words, what is the reason that they're going to go after the next sale every single time, then you could tie in their goals to that every single time. Some people, it's strictly money. Some people, it's security. Some people, it's power. Some people, it's notoriety. Some people, it's promotion. It's like, goes on and on. But you have to know what that sales currency is for your personnel in order to manage them correctly. And then it's a or a matter of establishing very clearly defined goals that are in alignment with the company so that you can let them loose. And I'll tell you also, within sales, every single person within the company should have the opportunity for commission. If not, then everybody's not a salesperson. And you may say, like, well, Bob over there, he doesn't want to do sales, and he's not going to be any good at sales. He doesn't even like talking to anybody. He's just a mean old guy. He might know a bunch of other mean old guys that he gets along with. Say he has a poker night that he goes to once a week, and there's 8 guys sitting around a poker table. Well, that's potentially 7 more customers that he could sell very easily, because they're like, well, if this grumpy old guy likes it, then maybe I'll like it. And why wouldn't you give them that opportunity? You're happy to pay a commission. If you're not happy to pay a commission, your commission structure is wrong. You should be thrilled to pay commissions to salespeople, just so that everybody's engaged, everybody's selling. It helps build the momentum of the entire company. Oh, I think I just went backwards. So, and I kind of went into this, but as far as the development of the sales team, I already talked about setting goals. I didn't talk about tracking them. You need to make sure that they're obvious. They're displayed for everyone. You want a scoreboard. Why are sports such a huge industry in our country? We have the Olympics coming up. We got the Super Bowl coming up. We just have one of the greatest football games ever. Let's use the Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs football game, which, I'm sorry if you're from Buffalo. I think Mike's on this webinar, and I really feel bad for Buffalo, because it was one of the greatest games I ever saw. But the reason it was a great game was because everybody knew the score and everybody knew how much time was left. If nobody knew how much time was left, there wouldn't be any urgency. There wouldn't be any anticipation, excitement at the end of the game. If your salespeople don't know what the score is and they don't know how much time's left in the game, then the excitement's gone, the urgency's gone, and they don't know whether they're winning or losing. Sales is black and white. As soon as you have a gray area, you are losing as a company and as a manager. So make sure that everybody knows whether they're winning or losing. And for those people that are more competitive, they want to know not only are they winning and losing against their goal, but are they winning and losing against their peers? So make sure that and it's as simple as just getting a dry erase board and writing the numbers up every day, and just so everybody can see where they stand. Institute an onboarding program. This is really critical because, and we talked about having identifying an ideal customer. You want to make sure that you identify your ideal employee, and in being more specific with that, your ideal salesperson. In order to get to the ideal salesperson, you need certain characteristics like I spoke about before: culture, drive, discipline, but then you need to teach them how to do the job. That's your responsibility. The two top reasons that people fail at their job is they don't know what to do and they don't know how to do it. Well, if they don't know what to do and they don't know how to do it as a manager or owner, that's your fault. That's not their fault. It's not their responsibility to figure it out. It's your responsibility to give them those answers, and then it's their responsibility to go execute on that. You want continuous training. I mentioned sales role play with cancel saves. Sales role play is probably one of the best easy training methods to do. If you have a weekly meeting, just have that as part of it. Hey, does anybody have a scenario that they got stuck on that they want to bring up? One person's the customer, the other person's the employee. Let's go through it and see how we can sell it, and let the whole thing play out, and then everybody can kind of chime in to give feedback on it and build off of that. Daily huddles. I love daily huddles, and they only take like 5 minutes. But hey, what were your biggest successes yesterday? What are you focused on today? That's it. You obviously can tie the goals into it and structure those questions around that. So, what was your biggest success towards your goal, and what are you doing today to move closer to your goal? And provide constant feedback. I saw an interesting study on Fortune 500 companies where they had interviewed the employees of the Fortune 500 companies, and one of the ratings that they did was on feedback, types of feedback. So out of 4 types of feedback, they ranked them. Number 1 that they wanted to hear was positive feedback. That's not surprising. Number 2, this is where it gets surprising, that they wanted to hear was negative feedback. Number 3 was no feedback. And number 4, that was their least favorite, was insincere positive feedback. So you want to provide constant feedback, but make sure that it's genuine. Don't just say something that doesn't really hold any value. Take the time to jot a note down about how somebody handled a customer, or how they, dealt with a situation, a number that they hit, whatever it is, the fact that they showed up early in order to get a jump on the day, whatever it is. Make sure that it is specific and you give them feedback. The better your feedback on positive behavior, the more positive behavior you'll get. So that pretty much wraps up what we were going to go over today. You will have a ton of resources emailed out to you. The marketing calendar, Golden Street approach, monitoring competition online, building your lawn care marketing plan video, Survey Monkey, NPS scores, and we have additional marketing support as well. You can obviously, I would love to chat with you about this one-on-one. We have another webinar coming up February 8th, the Unapologetic sales pitch. Obviously, you didn't hear me pitch Holganix products today. Here's the pitch. If you're concerned about your fertilizer prices, you should probably have a conversation with us about using biologicals to reduce the amount of fertilizer that you need. There's never been a better time to save money doing the right thing than right now. That was my sales pitch. So we have that webinar coming up. Really good for anybody, whether it's distributor or end user, homeowner, doesn't matter. So if you know anybody that would benefit from that or yourself, make sure you hop on there. I appreciate everybody for being on today. Again, if you have any questions, reach out to me. I'm happy to discuss any of these topics with you, or if whatever your needs are for the season that's coming up. Thanks again for being on, and I am signing off.